You do not belong upstairs, so stop right there." The words reached Jordan Ellis before his hand could touch the gray scarf lying on the lobby chair. He stopped beneath the cold white lights of the Rittenhouse Square apartment building and slowly turned toward the security desk. Mark Reynolds, the evening security supervisor, had stepped from behind the polished marble counter. At 48, Mark carried himself with the practiced authority of someone accustomed to deciding who entered and who waited. His eyes moved from Jordan's inexpensive sneakers to his dark hoodie, then to the elevators behind him. Jordan was 19, a freshman at Temple University, and he suddenly understood that the scarf sitting less than 10 feet away was no longer the real issue. "I am not going upstairs," Jordan said. "I came back for my scarf." Mark glanced toward the chair. "How did you get in here the first time?" "I walked in with Mr. Bennett." "Which Mr. Bennett?" "Walter Bennett. Apartment 814. Mark's expression remained guarded. "And what exactly were you doing with him?" Jordan felt heat rise beneath his collar despite the November cold still clinging to his clothes. Residents crossed the lobby carrying shopping bags and umbrellas, their shoes clicking against the stone floor. Nobody stopped, but Jordan could feel the room becoming smaller around him. "I carried his groceries home," he answered. He needed help. Mark studied him for another moment. "You expect me to believe you just carried groceries into this building for somebody you do not know?" Jordan looked at the scarf again. His mother had mailed it from Baltimore 2 weeks earlier after hearing him complain about Philadelphia wind. He could have argued. He could have demanded to know why helping an elderly man required an interrogation. Instead, he kept his voice level. "You have a desk phone. Call Mr. Bennett." Mark folded his arms. "You need to wait while I figure out what happened." "That is fine," Jordan said. "Call him." A red light blinked on the security camera above the elevators. Jordan noticed it now, small and steady. Somewhere beyond the glass entrance, a SEPTA bus rolled past. Through the damp evening, brakes sighing at the corner, Jordan watched its interior lights disappear down Walnut Street. It was not the first bus he had watched leave without him that evening. Mark returned behind the desk and reached for the phone, but he did not dial immediately. Full name: Jordan Ellis. Identification: Jordan pulled his Temple student identification card from his wallet and placed it carefully on the counter. Mark examined it, then looked back at him. "You live around here?" "North Philadelphia, on campus." "Then why were you inside this building?" Jordan's jaw tightened. "I already told you." For the first time, something in Mark's face shifted, though Jordan could not tell whether it was doubt or irritation. Jordan pointed gently toward the phone. "Apartment 814. Please call him." Mark finally lifted the receiver. Jordan stood beneath the bright lobby lights, hands visible at his sides, while the forgotten scarf waited silently on the chair. 40 minutes earlier, none of this had existed. 40 minutes earlier, Jordan Ellis had been outside a grocery store, worried about catching a bus and finishing an economics assignment before midnight. Then he had noticed an elderly blind man standing beside 6 grocery bags, trying to determine which direction the sidewalk ran. One paper handle was beginning to tear. Jordan had looked toward the approaching bus, then back at the stranger. He had no idea that choosing between them would change the next morning of his life. Jordan reached the paper bag just before the handle gave way. "I have it, sir," he said, catching the weight against his forearm while a carton of eggs shifted dangerously near the top. The elderly man beside the grocery store entrance turned toward Jordan's voice. He wore a charcoal overcoat, a knitted cap, and dark glasses, and one hand rested around the handle of a white cane. 5 other grocery bags crowded the sidewalk around his shoes. "That sounded expensive," the man said. Jordan smiled. "Only almost expensive." The man laughed softly. "Then you saved my breakfast." Behind Jordan, the SEPTA bus he had been waiting for approached the stop, its route display glowing through the gray Philadelphia evening. Jordan checked the time on his phone. He had an economics assignment due before midnight, laundry waiting in his residence hall, and exactly enough money on his transit card to avoid spending anything unnecessary that week. "Are you waiting for someone?" Jordan asked. "No. I usually manage this better." The man tapped his cane lightly against the pavement. "The delivery service canceled, so I decided Independence was going grocery shopping." Jordan looked at the 6 bags. Independence bought a lot of groceries. Independence was overly confident. The bus doors opened 30 feet away. Jordan heard passengers boarding. The elderly man bent carefully toward another bag, feeling for its handles. Jordan saw his fingers searching along the paper edge. Where do you live? Jordan asked. A few blocks east, near Rittenhouse Square. Jordan glanced at the bus. The driver was preparing to pull away. I can carry these. The man immediately shook his head. Son, your bus is leaving. Jordan watched the doors close. For half a second, every practical thought told him to run. Then he looked at the bags again. There will be another bus. The bus rolled away. The man became quiet. You do not even know me. That makes two of us. Jordan gathered 3 bags in each hand, testing their weight. I am Jordan. Walter Bennett. Walter extended his free hand toward Jordan's voice, and Jordan shifted the groceries long enough to shake it. All right, Mr. Bennett. You navigate. I carry. They started east beneath bare trees and storefront lights. The bags were heavier than Jordan expected. Canned soup pressed against one wrist, and something glass knocked gently inside another bag with every step. Walter moved steadily beside him, his cane locating curbs and changes in pavement before his shoes reached them. Jordan resisted the instinct to grab his arm. Instead, he asked, Would you like my elbow? Walter smiled. Now you are speaking my language. Jordan offered his left elbow, adjusting the groceries to keep one hand free enough to guide without pulling. At the next intersection, Walter asked, College? Jordan looked down at his Temple hoodie. That obvious? Your backpack sounds like it contains $600 of textbooks. Jordan laughed. More like $600 of books I am afraid to spill coffee on. Freshman, first semester. The light changed, and traffic softened to a low hum while they crossed. Walter asked what he studied. Jordan admitted he had not decided yet. Economics interested him, public policy interested him more, and tuition interested him most because it arrived whether he felt prepared or not. Walter chuckled. That is a very freshman answer. Jordan shifted the bags again. His fingers were beginning to ache, but Walter's building was already visible ahead, rising above the wet pavement and evening traffic. You can leave them at the door, Walter said. You have already missed enough time because of me. Jordan looked at the revolving entrance, then at the 6 bags cutting into his hands. I did not miss the bus because of you, Mr. Bennett. I decided not to take it. Walter stopped for the smallest moment. Then he nodded. There is a difference, isn't there? Jordan opened the building door. Neither of them noticed the security camera above the entrance turning toward them. Inside the lobby, warmth replaced the sharp November air, and Jordan immediately noticed how different the building felt from his residence hall. The floor beneath his sneakers was polished stone. The walls carried framed photographs of old Philadelphia streets, and somewhere nearby a quiet piano recording played through hidden speakers. Walter moved with confidence now, tapping his cane twice near the elevator. 814, he said. And before you ask, yes, there is an elevator. I am independent, not unreasonable. Jordan laughed as the doors opened. Good, because your groceries are getting heavier every floor. That is the orange juice. I always regret the orange juice. They rode upward, and Walter asked, So what does a 19-year-old freshman do when he is not rescuing reckless grocery shoppers? Study. Work weekends at the campus bookstore. Call my mother often enough that she does not assume Philadelphia swallowed me. Walter smiled. Baltimore. Jordan glanced at him. How did you know? Your accent slips when you relax. Jordan shook his head, impressed. My mother would like you. Most mothers do. Their children are less certain. The elevator opened, and Jordan followed Walter along the carpeted hallway. At apartment 814, Walter unlocked the door and guided Jordan toward the kitchen. The apartment was comfortable but not extravagant, filled with books, framed family photographs, and the faint smell of coffee. Jordan placed the 6 bags on the counter and flexed his sore fingers. Mission accomplished. Walter touched the edge of one bag. Not quite. Would you tell me which one has the frozen food? Jordan checked. This one. Frozen vegetables, waffles, and something claiming to be healthy pizza. The box is lying. I suspected that. Jordan put the frozen items away, then read labels as Walter organized the pantry by touch and location. He quickly understood that Walter did not need someone taking over. He needed information when he requested it. Tomato soup? Walter asked. 2 cans. Top shelf, left side. Jordan placed them there. Coffee. Ground coffee, dark roast. That deserves the center shelf. Their rhythm became easy. Walter never treated Jordan like a servant, and Jordan never treated Walter like someone helpless. When the final grocery bag was empty, Walter reached for his wallet. At least let me pay for the bus you missed. No, sir. Jordan. Still no. You are a college student. I remember what that means. Jordan pulled on his backpack. Then you remember being stubborn about money. Walter laughed. Unfortunately, yes. He paused, then asked more quietly, why did you help me? Jordan looked toward the window where Philadelphia lights shimmered against the damp glass. My parents had a rule. If somebody needs a hand, and you have one free, you help first. You do not ask what they own or what they can do for you. Walter became still. That is a good rule. It is inconvenient sometimes. The good ones usually are. Jordan smiled and moved toward the door. You are all set, Mr. Bennett. Walter turned toward his footsteps. Jordan Ellis. Jordan stopped. Yes. I wanted to. Make sure I remembered your full name. Why? Walter smiled faintly. Because people remember what cost them something. Tonight cost you a bus ride. Jordan shrugged. Just do me a favor and buy less orange juice next time. Walter laughed as Jordan stepped into the hallway. Downstairs, Jordan crossed the lobby without noticing that his gray scarf had slipped from his backpack and landed on a chair near the elevators. He walked outside, checked the next SEPTA arrival on his phone, and headed toward the stop. He had gone almost 2 blocks when the cold touched the back of his neck. His hand reached automatically for the scarf. Nothing was there. Jordan stopped beneath a streetlight and looked back toward the building. For a moment, he considered leaving it until another day. Then he remembered his mother mailing it to him with a note telling him Philadelphia winters were not impressed by 19-year-old confidence. Jordan turned around. He expected to walk inside, pick up his scarf, and leave in less than a minute. He had no reason to imagine that the same lobby that had welcomed him beside Walter would feel entirely different when he returned alone. Jordan pushed through the glass entrance, expecting the warmth of the lobby and nothing more complicated than retrieving his scarf. The gray wool was exactly where he had left it, folded loosely across the arm of a chair near the elevators. He had taken 3 steps toward it when a voice stopped him. Can I help you? Jordan turned. Mark Reynolds stood behind the security desk, watching him with an expression that felt different from the casual glance Jordan remembered receiving when he had entered beside Walter. Yes, sir. I left my scarf right there. Jordan pointed toward the chair. Mark looked at the scarf, then back at Jordan. What apartment are you visiting? I'm not visiting anyone now. I just came down from apartment 814 a few minutes ago. Who lives there? Walter Bennett. Mark stepped around the desk. How do you know Mr. Bennett? Jordan hesitated, surprised by the question. I met him outside the grocery store. He needed help carrying his bags home. Mark's eyes moved briefly toward Jordan's. Temple hoodie and backpack. So you met a resident on the street and came inside with him? Yes. Did he invite you into his apartment? Jordan felt the warmth of the building differently now. He asked me to bring the groceries into his kitchen, and then you left? Yes. Mark looked toward the elevators. But now you are back. Jordan pointed again. Because my scarf is right there. A white couple entered through the revolving door, carrying restaurant leftovers. Mark greeted them with a nod. Neither was asked where they were going. They crossed the lobby and entered the elevator without slowing down. Jordan watched the doors close, then looked back at Mark. Can I take my scarf now? I need to verify your story first. Jordan's stomach tightened. Then call Mr. Bennett. Mark did not move toward the telephone. Do you have identification? Jordan pulled out his Temple student identification card. Mark studied it longer than Jordan expected. Jordan Ellis. 19. Yes, sir. You live on campus? Yes. Do you have any reason to be in this building besides helping Mr. Bennett? No. Were you looking around any other floors? Jordan stared at him. I went to 8, helped put groceries away, came downstairs, and left. Did Mr. Bennett give you anything? No. The question landed harder than the others. Jordan remembered Walter opening his wallet and Jordan refusing. He offered to pay for the bus I missed. I said no. Mark's eyebrows lifted slightly. You missed a bus for someone you had never met. Yes. Why? Jordan breathed slowly before answering. Because he had 6 grocery bags and needed help. The lobby seemed unusually quiet. Jordan could hear the low piano music and the faint mechanical hum of the elevators. Mark glanced toward the security monitor. We have expensive residences here. We have procedures. I understand procedures. Jordan kept his voice steady. What I do not understand is why calling apartment 814 has not been one of them yet. Mark's jaw tightened. Watch your tone. Jordan looked at him for a moment, then lowered his hands to his sides. He knew anger would not make the truth clearer. I am speaking calmly. I am giving you the resident's name, apartment number, and permission to verify everything I said. Mark reached toward the desk phone, but stopped. You need to remain here. I am already here. Another resident crossed the lobby without being questioned. Jordan noticed the camera above the elevators, its small red indicator glowing steadily. He looked directly at it for half a second, then back at Mark. That camera saw me come in with Mr. Bennett. It saw me leave. It saw me return. Mark followed Jordan's gaze. Something uncertain passed across his face. Jordan did not press it. He simply pointed toward the telephone. Please call him. This time, Mark picked up the receiver and began dialing apartment 814. The phone rang 4 times before Walter answered. Mark turned slightly away, but the lobby was quiet enough for Jordan to hear his side of the conversation. Mr. Bennett, this is security downstairs. I need to verify a visitor who says he was with you this evening. A pause followed. Mark glanced at Jordan. Jordan Ellis. Another pause, longer this time. Mark's posture changed almost imperceptibly. Yes, sir. I understand. Jordan could not hear Walter's words, but he could imagine the confusion in the older man's voice. Mark asked 2 more questions, thanked him, and returned the receiver to its cradle. Mr. Bennett confirmed your story. Jordan waited. Mark said nothing else. So I can take my scarf? Yes. Jordan crossed the few feet to the chair and picked it up. The wool still held a trace of warmth from the lobby. He wrapped it around his neck, but the simple act did not erase the questions that had come before it. Mark returned to his position behind the desk. Look, I was doing my job. We have to know who is coming and going. Jordan turned toward him. He thought about the white couple who had walked directly to the elevator without being stopped. He thought about how easily he had entered the same building when Walter had been beside him. I understand keeping residents safe, Jordan said. I really do. Mark nodded as though the matter were settled. Jordan did not move. But would you have done it the same way with everyone? The question hung between them. Mark's eyes shifted toward the security monitors. I follow procedure. That was not what I asked. Mark looked back at him. For the first time, there was no immediate answer. Jordan could feel his heartbeat in his chest, not from anger now, but from the effort of remaining steady when every part of him wanted to leave. He did not want an argument. He wanted the question to remain where Mark could not easily dismiss it. You had his name, Jordan continued. You had his apartment number. You had cameras. You had a telephone. I gave you everything you needed to check my story. Mark's expression tightened, and I checked it. Eventually, the elevator opened behind them. A woman carrying a small dog stepped into the lobby, smiled briefly at Mark, and continued toward the exit. No questions. No identification. Jordan watched her leave. Mark saw him watching. Neither man spoke for several seconds. Then Mark said, quieter, "You are free to go." Jordan almost smiled at the wording, but there was nothing funny about it. I was always free to go. I came back for a scarf. He adjusted his backpack and headed toward the entrance. Behind him, the red light on the lobby camera continued blinking, preserving details neither of them yet understood would matter. Outside, a thin rain had begun to fall over Center City. The cold air touched Jordan's face as he walked toward the bus stop. His phone showed that he had missed another bus during the verification. The next one was 12 minutes away. He sat beneath the shelter, opened his economics assignment on his phone, and tried to read the same paragraph 3 times. The words would not stay with him. Instead, he kept hearing Mark's questions. Why were you inside this building? Did he give you anything? Why would you miss a bus for someone you did not know? Jordan looked down at his hands. Red lines from the grocery bag handles were still faintly visible across his fingers. Those marks bothered him less than the suspicion. His phone vibrated with a campus message about tomorrow's class schedule. Ordinary life was already asking him to move forward. When the bus finally arrived, Jordan climbed aboard, found a seat near the back, and watched wet Philadelphia lights slide across the window. Upstairs in apartment 814, Walter stood beside his kitchen counter with the security call still on his mind. After several quiet minutes, he reached for his phone and spoke a familiar contact name. Call Claire. Jordan, miles away by then, had no idea that Walter Bennett was about to tell his daughter everything. Walter did not begin with the security guard. He began with the groceries. A young man missed his bus because your father believed 6 bags were a reasonable idea, he told Claire when she answered. Her tired laugh came through the speaker. That sounds exactly like you. Walter stood beside the kitchen counter, one hand resting near the dark roast coffee Jordan had placed on the center shelf. His name is Jordan Ellis. 19. Temple freshman. Claire heard something in his voice. What happened? Walter explained the walk from the grocery store, Jordan offering his elbow instead of grabbing him, the jokes about orange juice, and the quiet refusal to accept money. Only then did he describe the call from downstairs. Claire stopped interrupting. Security thought he had no reason to be here, she asked. Apparently helping me was not reason enough until I confirmed it. Walter's voice remained controlled, but Claire knew her father well enough to hear the disappointment underneath. Did you see what happened in the lobby? No, but the building has cameras. Claire was silent for a moment. Then we should learn what actually happened before assuming anything. Walter smiled faintly. That is why I called you. Claire Bennett had spent enough years running an education foundation to distrust stories built from only one person's memory, even when that person was her father. She did not call Mark Reynolds. She contacted the building manager and explained that she wanted the lobby footage preserved and reviewed through the proper process. Walter gave the approximate times Jordan had arrived, left, and returned. By then, Jordan was back at Temple, sitting at a small desk in his residence hall with rain drying across the shoulders of his hoodie. His roommate, Marcus, looked over from his bed. You have been reading that same page for 10 minutes. Jordan rubbed his eyes. Long night. You want to talk about it? Jordan considered saying no. Instead, he told him about Walter, the groceries, the missed buses, and finally the lobby. Marcus listened without joking. He made you prove you belonged there? I did not need to belong there, Jordan said. I needed to pick up my scarf. That distinction stayed in the room. Marcus leaned forward. Did you get the guard's name? Mark Reynolds. Did you report it? Jordan looked at his unfinished assignment. I do not even know what I would report. He never called me anything. He just kept treating every answer like it created another reason to doubt me. Marcus nodded slowly. Sometimes that is the part people pretend does not count. Jordan closed his laptop for a moment. He could still see residents passing through the lobby while he stood beneath the camera answering questions. I asked him whether he would have handled everyone the same way. What did he say? Nothing. Outside the residence hall window, North Philadelphia glistened after the rain. Cars moved along Broad Street, their headlights stretching across wet pavement. Jordan finally reopened his assignment. I helped Mr. Bennett because he needed help. I am not going to let what happened afterward make me regret that. Marcus gave a small nod. Good. Near midnight, Jordan submitted his economics work with 3 minutes remaining. He plugged in his phone, set an alarm for 7, and placed the gray scarf across the back of his chair. Across the city, Claire received confirmation that the relevant camera footage had been located. She watched Jordan enter beside Walter carrying 6 grocery bags. She watched him leave alone. Then she watched him return for the scarf and remain near the security desk while other residents moved through the lobby. Claire replayed several minutes once, then again. She did not look angry when the recording ended. She looked certain. Before turning off her laptop, she sent one message to her driver with an address near Temple University and a time for the following morning. Jordan was already asleep when the reply arrived, confirmed. 8 o'clock. At 7:48 the next morning, Jordan stepped out of his residence hall expecting cold air, a crowded sidewalk, and the usual walk toward his first class. Instead, he stopped beneath the entrance awning. A long black limousine waited at the curb, polished enough to mirror the pale Philadelphia sky. 2 students slowed beside him. Somebody important visiting? One asked. Jordan adjusted his backpack. Definitely not for me. He started toward Broad Street. Before he reached the corner, the limousine driver stepped out and opened the rear door. A woman in a dark blue coat emerged, carrying no briefcase, only a phone and a calm expression. She looked toward the residence hall entrance. Jordan Ellis? Jordan stopped. The students beside him looked at him, then at the limousine. Yes, ma'am. The woman approached without rushing. She appeared to be in her mid-40s, professional but not distant. My name is Claire Bennett. The last name caught him immediately. Bennett. Walter Bennett is my father. Jordan's shoulders loosened slightly. Is he all right? Claire smiled. He is fine. He is also annoyed that I told him 6 grocery bags were too many. Jordan laughed despite his confusion. I tried telling him the orange juice was the problem. He mentioned that. Claire's smile faded into something more serious. He also told me what happened after you left his apartment. Jordan glanced at the limousine again. Mr. Bennett did not have to do anything about that. He believed he did. Claire paused. And so did I, once I saw the footage. Jordan looked back at her. You saw the lobby video? The building preserved it. My father gave management the approximate times. I asked them to review what the cameras recorded before anyone made conclusions. The morning noise around Jordan seemed to soften. Buses moved along Broad Street. Students crossed toward campus carrying coffee. Claire continued. The footage shows you entering with my father carrying his groceries. It shows you leaving. It shows you returning alone and pointing to your scarf. It also shows several residents passing through while you were kept at the desk. Jordan said nothing. Hearing the sequence spoken aloud made the difference in treatment feel more concrete than it had the night before. I do not want anyone punished because my father knows somebody important, he finally said. Claire studied him for a moment. Neither do I. Her answer came immediately. This is not about privilege. If the process was unfair, it should be reviewed because it was unfair, not because of who my father is. Jordan nodded slowly. That answer mattered to him. Claire gestured toward a small coffee shop across the street. Do you have 10 minutes before class? Jordan checked his phone. 12. Then I will use 10. They walked across the street rather than entering the limousine. Inside, Claire bought 2 coffees and chose a table near the window. Only after they sat down did Jordan notice the name printed beneath a foundation logo on a folder she carried. Claire Bennett, Chief Executive Officer. You run an education foundation? He asked. The Bennett Education Foundation. Scholarships, community partnerships, college access programs. Jordan looked from the folder to her. Mr. Bennett never said anything. My father enjoys not saying things. Claire took a sip of coffee, especially things he thinks might change how people treat him. Jordan thought about Walter asking why he had helped. Suddenly the question carried another layer. Claire leaned forward slightly. Jordan, my father remembers voices better than most people remember faces. Last night, he repeated something you told him. You said you help first. You do not ask what someone owns or what they can do for you. Jordan looked down at his coffee. My parents say that. They taught you well. Claire did not flatter him beyond that. Instead, she opened the folder. There are 2 separate matters here. The security company's conduct will be reviewed through its normal process. Your account, my father's statement, and the footage will all be included. Then she turned one page. The second matter has nothing to do with that complaint. Jordan saw the words Community Leadership Internship. Claire slid the information toward him. Applications open next month. I am not offering you a position. You would interview like everyone else. Jordan looked up. Then why bring it to me? Claire smiled. Because yesterday, when nobody was watching for a reward, you demonstrated exactly the kind of judgment this program is supposed to develop. Outside the window, the limousine remained at the curb. For the first time, Jordan understood that it had not arrived to rescue him. It had arrived because a quiet decision beside 6 grocery bags had traveled farther than he ever expected. Jordan read the internship page twice before looking back at Claire. I will apply, he said, but I want to earn it. Claire gave a small nod. That is exactly what I expected you to say. He folded the information carefully and slipped it into his backpack beside his economics notebook. His class started in 6 minutes, so Claire did not keep him longer. Before Jordan left, she said, the security company may contact you. You decide how much you want to participate. Jordan paused near the door. I will participate. I just do not want this turned into revenge. Neither do I. 3 days later, Jordan returned to the Rittenhouse Square building for a scheduled meeting with the property manager, a representative from the security contractor, and Mark Reynolds. Walter sat beside Jordan, his white cane resting against his chair. Mark entered last. Without the security desk between them, he seemed less imposing than Jordan remembered. The representative summarized the review plainly. Camera footage confirmed Jordan's account. Building records confirmed Walter had entered with him. The review also found that other residents and visitors had passed through during the same period without receiving comparable questioning. The company would revise its visitor verification procedure, require documentation of security stops, and add bias awareness training to its quarterly instruction. Then Mark turned toward Jordan. I owe you an apology. Jordan waited. Mark drew a slow breath. You gave me information I could verify immediately. Instead, I kept questioning you as though every answer was another reason to be suspicious. That was not fair. The room remained quiet. Jordan could have answered quickly. but he wanted to say only what he meant. "What bothered me was not that you checked," he said. "It was that nothing I said seemed enough for you to believe checking would settle it." Mark lowered his eyes. "I understand that now." "Do you?" Jordan asked, not sharply. Mark looked back at him. Jordan continued. "Because the next person might not have Mr. Bennett upstairs. They might not have somebody whose daughter knows how to make sure the footage gets reviewed." Claire, seated near the end of the table, said nothing. This was Jordan's moment, not hers. Mark nodded. "You are right." Jordan glanced toward Walter, then back at Mark. "I do not need you to feel small. I need the next person to be treated fairly." Something in Mark's expression changed. The defensiveness Jordan remembered from that night was gone. "I can do better than I did," he said. Jordan accepted the apology with a quiet nod. No handshake was necessary. No dramatic promise followed. The meeting ended with written confirmation that the complaint had been documented and the procedural review had begun. Outside, Walter and Jordan walked slowly toward Walnut Street. "You handled that better than I would have at 19, Walter said. Jordan smiled. "You were probably difficult at 19. I was magnificent at 19. Everyone else was difficult." Jordan laughed. At the corner, Walter stopped. "Claire tells me you are applying. I started the application last night. Need a recommendation?" "Not from the chief executive officer's father." Walter tilted his head. "What about from an old man whose orange juice you carried 8 blocks? Jordan laughed again. "That one I might accept." A SEPTA bus rolled past them, brakes whispering against the wet street. Jordan watched it disappear through traffic, then checked the time. He could catch the next one easily. Walter reached into his coat pocket and produced a folded piece of paper. "My phone number," he said. "Not because I need groceries." Jordan took it. "Good, because next time you are buying fewer cans." Walter smiled. The limousine, the foundation, and the apology had changed the shape of Jordan's week, but none of them changed the reason he had stopped outside that grocery store. He had helped before he knew Walter's last name meant anything to anyone. Now, standing beside him in the cold Philadelphia afternoon, Jordan understood that this was precisely why everything that followed mattered. 3 weeks later, Jordan stood in the lobby of the Bennett Education Foundation with his backpack resting against one polished shoe and his hands folded loosely in front of him. His interview had lasted 42 minutes. Nobody had asked about Walter until the final question, and even then the interviewer had only said, "Tell us about a time you chose responsibility when nobody required it." Jordan had answered without mentioning a limousine, an apology, or a security camera. He talked about 6 grocery bags, a departing bus, and the simple decision to stay. Now the elevator doors opened behind him, and a familiar voice called, "You sound nervous," from 20 feet away. Jordan turned. Walter stood near the reception desk in his charcoal overcoat, white cane in one hand and a single brown grocery bag in the other. Jordan smiled immediately. "You brought groceries to my interview?" "1 bag. I have learned moderation." "Is there orange juice in there?" "Absolutely not. I respect your education too much." Jordan laughed, and some of the tension left his shoulders. He walked over and reached for the bag. Walter held it closer to his side. "I can carry 1 bag." "I know. Then why are you taking it?" Jordan gently accepted the handles. "Because I can." Walter became quiet for a moment, then smiled. They headed toward the entrance together. Jordan had not yet learned whether he would receive the internship. Claire had deliberately stayed away from the interview process after making the introduction, and Jordan respected her more for that. If he earned a place, it would be because the selection committee believed he belonged there. If he did not, he would apply somewhere else. The opportunity mattered, but it was no longer the most important thing he carried from that November evening. Outside, Philadelphia had settled into the blue-gray light of late afternoon. People moved along the sidewalk beneath winter coats. Buses groaned at intersections, and steam rose from a street grate near the corner. Walter touched Jordan's elbow lightly. "Which way?" "Straight for half a block, then left." They moved together at an easy pace. At the next intersection, Jordan noticed a black limousine waiting near the curb. For an instant, he remembered the morning it had appeared outside his residence hall and how impossible it had seemed that anything connected to that car could involve him. The limousine pulled away before they reached it. Jordan barely watched it go. A SEPTA bus approached from behind them, its brakes giving the same familiar sigh he had heard weeks earlier when he chose not to board. Walter tilted his head toward the sound. "That yours?" Jordan checked the route number. "It could be." Do not miss another bus because of me. Jordan looked at the grocery bag in his hand. It was light enough that Walter could easily have carried it. That was not the point anymore. I have time. Walter nodded, and they continued walking. Near Rittenhouse Square, they passed the apartment building. Through the glass doors, Jordan could see Mark at the security desk speaking with a delivery driver. Mark checked a digital visitor record, made a brief call, then smiled and directed the driver toward the elevators. The exchange was calm, quick, and ordinary. Mark happened to glance toward the sidewalk. He saw Jordan and gave him a small nod. Jordan returned it. Nothing more was needed. A few steps later, Walter asked, "What happened?" "Nothing," Jordan said, and this time the word felt good. They reached the corner as the traffic light changed. Jordan offered his elbow. Walter took it. Together they crossed beneath the winter sky. One white cane tapping softly against the pavement, one grocery bag swinging between them, while the bus Jordan could have taken disappeared into the Philadelphia traffic behind them.